When the internet began, bulletin board services, or BBS, became the first online communities of the so-called information superhighway. Using their phone lines, people logged in from all over America to talk about sports, games, movies, and on one BBS in particular, share their ghost stories. Over time, those communities all went dark, except for one lone server that continues to operate somewhere in an unknown part of Pennsylvania's Rust Belt. A relic of the 1990s, veiled in mystery, it is a digital archive of humanity's strangest encounters with the unknown, as told by the people who experienced them. My name is Brandon Schexnayder, and you are listening to Fear Daily.
Subject: The Mattress Fort, Part 3. User: 17Searcher. Posted August 13th, 1995.
My appointment with the bookseller was at 7, and I left home an hour beforehand, just in case there was any leftover traffic from rush hour. It also gave me time to check in at the office, where I'd ignored another answering machine message from Anne Franklin. The couple words I'd heard from her before hitting skip sounded upbeat, and I didn't have it in me to listen to her doomed hope. That poor kid actually thinking I could get her cat back was more upsetting than the task ahead of me, and just hearing her voice for those few seconds had me questioning exactly what I was doing. Why was I fucking around with forces beyond my understanding again? Was I really so concerned for the welfare of people I didn't know, or was this just another thing to distract myself from the emptiness of my life? Apart from work, I hadn't been up to much since the fall. Reading bad detective novels, going to see beat-to-shit prints of even worse movies at the Aurora and Raleigh Heights theaters. I couldn't remember the last time I'd gone on a date. March? At this point in my life, sex was basically like gravity, in that I couldn't see it or touch it, but since the world continues perpetuating itself, I have to assume it's happening. After a while, the thought that I might be trying to take on feral lunatics from out of time and space because I wasn't getting laid was too bleak to dwell upon. So I turned up the radio. A line of cars stopped at some road construction sent me on a detour. Left, then right, then left again, and my tires were humming across Clark River via the Ironworks Bridge. Before industry collapsed here, this was how ore would be trucked in for the factories which once gave life to the big nowhere. Now, it felt rickety, groaning ominously with even a single vehicle's weight. If condemning it didn't require the municipal government to make a collective decision for which someone might have to be responsible, I have to imagine it would have been closed long ago. I'd made the course correction on autopilot, the reality of what was happening in this part of town completely gone from my head. Once I reached the cracked asphalt, it came roaring back, and watching for signs of the Mattress Fort became the only thing on my mind. Miles of concrete wasteland rolled past. Abandoned factories, their facades marked with graffiti, some of which I recognized from my earlier conversation with Jerry. Hershires, Cobblepot, etc. Apart from an eerie quiet, which wasn't totally unusual for this part of town, there was no indication anything out of the ordinary was going on. Then, Like God himself had drawn a line down the map, the big nowhere gave way to Faunalus, where a side street was lined with emergency service vehicles, their flashing lights painting everything in alternating red and blue. In my head, I heard Jerry's voice. Things are about to get ugly in the burbs. Stopping would make me late for my appointment with Corso, but I had to know. The cops weren't interested in telling me anything at first. Their voices were guitar string tight, hands permanently resting on the butt of their guns. I had about given up when I heard a familiar voice. "Andrew, what the hell are you doing here?" It was Rob, my father's best friend, and the man who had raised me ever since the accident which claimed both my parents' lives. He was a police detective out of the 1st District, now in his late 50s, creeping up on a retirement he didn't want. We were closer when I was younger, my life less focused. Rob had been a big part of getting me into PI work, and for a while, that put us in the same rooms even more. Though I couldn't say exactly why, once things had really taken off for me, we began to see less of each other. It wasn't how I wanted that relationship to go, and in the rare times when we got together, I felt the same from him, but you try getting an Irishman to talk about his feelings. He nodded at the 2 cops who'd been holding the line, dismissing them. "Hey, Rob, it's been a while. I was passing by, saw the lights. Not a usual sight in this part of town. What's going on?" He put his hands on his hips, ice blue eyes searching mine. "Just passing by, eh? You working?" He never misses a trick. "Yeah, I'm meeting a guy at the Horizon Club. There was construction on the highway, so I came over the old bridge through nowhere." His white hair was close-cropped against his scalp and had been as long as I'd known him. He quit smoking about 10 years ago, switching to gum, and I watched his jaw work as he chewed thoughtfully. "Horizon, hey? You're moving up in the world. Careful with those assholes. They like to distract you with all that flash, then stick a knife in your back." He was stalling. Not normal for him. "I know, it's not much. Just meeting some bookseller, trying to get information on a case. So, what's going on?" He looked behind him at the swarming tangle of crime scene techs and patrolmen, then looked away. "Home invasion, it's bad. The whole family, Andy. Who fucking does that? I've seen some shit in this job, you know that, but never anything like this. They didn't just kill them, they fucking annihilated them." When he turned back toward me, his face was pale. "The kids, Jesus, you can't imagine. They weren't any older than you when you..." He trailed off, and I was uncomfortable seeing him this disconsolate that I let the silence stand for a few moments. "Any witnesses?" The question helped him shake off the funk, and behind his eyes, you could see the cop part of his brain spinning back up. Rob took a deep breath before answering. "A couple, but nothing useful. They said it was a crew of guys, maybe 6, maybe 8, depending on who you ask. Everyone agrees they were filthy, homeless, most likely." A cold hand squeezed my chest, hard. Fuck. Rob, for all his powers of observation, was too much up in his head to notice the flicker of recognition on my face. Thing is, nothing was taken. People got a problem with the homeless, but mostly they keep to the jungles and the nowhere. If they ever be in a place, it's when no one is home and they take shit. This was slaughter. They had to know people were home, and they didn't fucking care. It's like that was the point. Rob and I parted ways with a vague promise of beers and barbecue at his house once it started to warm up. He'd begun to come around toward the end of our conversation, and I got the impression he knew I was holding something back. No doubt, he'd be calling me to grill me sometime in the next couple days, and maybe by then I'd have a handle on this. Hell, maybe by then it'd be packed away completely. It all depended on what Corso could tell me, and I was already late.
Subject, low sun. User, S12 stud. Posted, December 12, 1996.
I just woke up from an awful nightmare. It's almost 4 in the morning, and aside from the hum of the computer, all I can hear is the traffic outside and my husband David snoring in the bedroom. The snoring isn't loud, though if he keeps eating cheese at the rate he does, in a few more years, it'll be a different story. In fairness, we've both let ourselves go a little in the last couple of years. You get comfortable with each other, I suppose. You skip a few aerobics classes to catch screenings of your favorite movies at the Met. You make good enough money to treat yourselves to some nice meals that you couldn't afford 10 years ago. It all catches up to you. And then, of course, there was Y2K bearing down. We used to make jokes like, can't miss seeing Jules at gym one more time before the curtain comes down, or these morels are going to go to waste once society collapses. Better make sure they find a good home. It used to bug some of our friends who weren't computer savvy. They really thought Y2K was going to be the end of civilization, but both David and I work in software and knew better. So much effort had been expended in the 10 years leading up to tonight that when we went to the big New Year's Eve block party at 9, it was all about having a good time and secretly people watching to see who was going to freak out as the clocks ticked over. I think that's what bothers me most about the nightmare. I'm not superstitious, but I still hate to start the millennium off on a sour note. I think dreams tell us a lot about where we're at in life, the things we're afraid of, and what we really want, which makes this one even harder to describe, but I'll do my best. Maybe someone here can help me figure it out. It started on a beautiful, clear morning. The sky was the most amazing cerulean blue I have ever seen. I was walking our dog down the street of a small town. That was the first unusual thing because we neither have a dog nor live in a small town, but it felt good. It felt safe, like I had been transplanted into the background of a Norman Rockwell painting. My dog and I were walking alongside a road next to some train tracks when I started to see a white light in the corner of my eye. Something deep inside me said I shouldn't look at it, but the urge to do just that grew within me, to the point where I lost my ability to resist. When I allowed myself to look at the white light, it exploded, filling my entire field of vision. As a little girl, I used to have to take religious education, catechism, my grandmother called it, and the nuns used to teach us that no one could truly see the face of God. If you tried, you'd be blinded by his light, and in the dream, I thought that's what had happened. Even though I've been an atheist ever since I was old enough to know what it meant, I still called out to God, restore my sight. The voice spoke to me then, cold, cruel, and inhuman. It said, "I'm not your God, little thing." My sight returned and the light zipped away up into what was now a darkly clouded sky, hanging there like a low sun. My dog was gone and a wind whipped around me. The air filled with a deafening rumble like a freight train was passing between my ears, and I watched as the white light split first into two, then those two into four. Each mitosis came with a physical pain in my chest, a tugging like something was being taken away from me. Two of the huge orbs sped away together, faster than I could track them. The other two separated, vanishing just as quickly in different directions. When they had gone, leaves began to fall around me, blanketing everything in sight. The train sound had stopped at some point, and all I could hear was the soft scraping of dried leaves landing atop one another. I could no longer move. All that was left was to stand there, mute and afraid, as I was slowly buried alive. Then I woke up. When I opened my eyes to see snowflakes drifting past the window, I froze for a second, thinking the nightmare wasn't over. It was David's snoring that tethered me back to reality. The thing of it is, even though I knew I was fully awake, the pulling feeling in my chest remained. It took a minute for me to recognize it as the same feeling I'd had when my grandfather had died, an ache that was equal parts grief, longing, and regret for things not done. It's still here with me now as I type this. Like I said before, I'm not superstitious, and this is all probably residual Y2K worry I picked up from people at the party, but a part of me is convinced something bad is going to happen. I even got up a moment ago to check on David, even though the rhythm of his snoring hadn't changed at all. The sun will be up in a few hours. I should probably call my mom to wish her a Happy New Year and check up on her too. The snow outside has turned to sleet, and I can hear the traffic churning up slush as the mantle clock ticks away. David and I have built a soft, peaceful life here together, and I wouldn't trade it for the world, but I can't help feeling like we won't get the choice. I wish I knew why. If anyone can offer an interpretation of that dream, please let me know.
Fear Daily is an independent podcast hosted by Brandon Schexnayder and written by Brennan Storr, with Joanna Smith serving as the consulting editor, audio production by Rachel Boyd, and sound design by Southern Gothic Media. This podcast is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents are either products of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or to real events or locations, is entirely coincidental. Ad-free versions of Fear Daily are available now on your favorite podcast apps. For more information, visit feardaily.com. But move fast, before the server goes offline.